Hey, good afternoon. Happy lunchtime, maybe if you're on the East Coast or not. It's kind of late, but yeah, figured I'd do a 12 o'clock show today because it's just doing a lot of things this morning to get things moving. And we have Bubbles. Bubbles, say hi. Oh, she's like, Dad's finally doing a show. She's here. Hey, I want to talk today about onboarding. And I was listening to Leela Hormozy. She's really good. She always talks about the onboarding process for new people and everything, and how so many companies do it so poorly. But if you really want to have a good company, you really need to have good onboarding. And I wanted to take that as part of whether it be new hires or actually I was thinking about it because it limits my thing. It's also onboarding people to the team that maybe from other team that get transferred. Maybe there's a layoff or they're just looking to apply and do something different within the company. So there's an onboarding of new hires as well as onboarding people that are new to the team. So I want to talk about that today and some of the things I do. Sometimes have arguments with companies on things they should do or our thought processes. Some people do it, some people don't, but I want to tell you how I do it, how I recommend doing it, and how I think it works much better from a good onboarding process for an agile or scrum team or any kind of agile team. So it's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master and Agile Coach. And here we talk about Scrum and Agile in a very practical, tactical way so you can bring more value to customer, spend less hours doing it, and have a little fun along the way. And today is We Team HR Wednesday. So it's kind of an HR thing. It's kind of a team thing. It's about onboarding and what you should do. I may have talked about some of this in previous episodes, but I thought it was timely and something to bring in because so many people are looking for jobs. I just sent out a bunch of, congratulations to people got new jobs. So now is a good time to do that. And Bubbles is being Bubbles over here, just trying to move everything around. I don't know what she wants. She wants attention. She doesn't know what she wants. So, by the way, tomorrow night I have an interview lined up. I have Victoria. She's a business analyst. I'm going to interview her. Talks about her journeys from Ukraine to U.S., back to Ukraine, and back to the U.S. again, and her stories as being a business analyst in multiple places around the globe. So she's looking for work, and I did an interview. And again, if anybody wants to do an interview, they asked me to send the resume out. I'm like, well, why don't we do an interview? And I just introduce you to the world. Why not? Right? If that's what you really want. So we're going to do that. Doing that for Victoria tomorrow. That'll be out at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursday night. So I guess Thursday would be the 6th of June. Anyway, all right. So the topic, onboarding. Got new hires. What do you do? How do you do it? So many companies I see waste time and energy because they don't have it set up in advance. I ask so many people. Some places are really, really good at this. Give them credit. I've seen some places that had stuff together, and I was really kind of impressed. Like they would have their, what am I thinking? My brain just went numb. They had their setups, let's say, all preconditioned. They're all their accounts or login for doing the virtual servers, whatever it would be, set up so that when they came on board, the virtual server already had all the connections, all the licensees, all the versions of software installed, and all they had to do is log in and set up their login credentials. So it was just boom, boom, boom. And some of them had really good documentation, but I'm going to say a majority teams, companies don't have it. So I'm going to talk about a couple things that you can do as a teammate, a new Scrum Master, or a new team, or whatever, for doing onboarding. So as we always do, there's always, it may not happen all the time, but maybe you get one or two new people that come on the team. So it makes your life easier, because I'll be honest with you, so many companies waste money and assets where they hired somebody or brought someone on the team, and then they spend like a couple sprints trying to get online and get everything set up when it could be done in a day. There's no reason on this planet that people who are onboarded can't have all their setups, everything needs done in a day. It may take, a day. I'm gonna lay that out there. If you're not doing it in a day, call me. Let's talk about it. Maybe I can help you, but it shouldn't take more than a day. So a couple things you do. When I said this before in a previous episode, what is a Scrum Master? You got an onboarding. Talk about your functional, your. I break it down in a couple of things. I break it down into, and I think I did this episode, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. Like your framework. What are you doing from a working as a team perspective? Meeting team members, um, getting your documentation done, meeting with the product owner to understand the product more, and then also from a technical perspective, from an engineering practice or practice, whatever the skill, whatever you're delivering, what are the practices that you as a group go through? And that's kind of, I did that before, so I'm not going to talk about it today. Today, I want to talk about documentation and setup. So when you get a new person on board, if you already don't have the documentation, right, Bubbles? Bubbles over here, she's just driving me nuts. She's gonna make me sneeze because she is just a fur. I mean, it's getting hot. So there's this like fur galore that's coming off this cat. Anyway, so when you get a new person on board, here's what I like to do. I assign the task to the new person. Let's say we don't have documentation, or we have documentation that just needs updating. When the new person comes on and they talk to these people, what setups do I need? What accounts do I need? All that stuff. I make it a task of that new person to document that process or update the current document based on what they knew. Because there's always a new system, a new add-on that gets added on to what the team needs to understand. So I make that a part of the task, and it helps me identify whether or not, to be honest with you, are they good at documentation? Even the simplest thing, like, hey, I need a setup to this, or I need let's say Slack. I need access to Slack, so I need a Slack account. Here's a list of all the accounts we need. Here's how we communicate. All that should be documented in a thing, and if it ain't there, these new people should be documenting that as a go. And if they're a developer or tester, whatever, what particular setups they need from a software perspective, hardware perspective to do their job within the first sprint, if not the second sprint, right? Or at least work tag along with somebody else. There's nothing worse than watching developers, testers, anybody, scrum masters ask people, so what's next? How do I get this? Who do I go talk to? It should be all laid out. They can take snapshots as they go, put them in there, put a little updated documentation. It's good to know because it allows them to understand this is what happens when you don't document your work and other people trying to figure out how to do. It takes them longer. Our goal is to get people working as soon as possible. There's a tail. There's a bubble tail. And that's our goal. So part one, get them a task to update the documentation for onboarding, all the configurations, all that. Step two, have them help set up a neutral, whatever you want to call it, setup for the virtual machine that can be used for anywhere. Add this, put a ticket in, add this to the virtual machine because we need to do that. So, I mean, everyone should be doing that as we go. Like if you have a new setup to whatever you're doing, like if you're a developer and you have to get a new setup or new ID, you should be sending tickets into your IT department to set up the configuration for that virtual server for onboarding, right? They should have these same connections or same capability, and they should be updated. Do it before the time when the person comes on board, because there's nothing worse than paying somebody good money for not coding or not working on the computer because they don't have the setup. I think that's the worst complete loss of time and energy ever. And to be honest with you, as a manager or scrum master, you don't have this stuff down at this point in time. What are you doing, right? Your goal is to eliminate blockers or things that slow the team down, especially new hires. That should be job number one, right? And if they're struggling to have that, then it's a thing. And I've done this multiple times. Now, sometimes I'll debate and have arguments with some of the managers and scrum masters. Oh, but that's not developing code. Look, I want a couple things. If they get a task in, as they update along, it gives them something that doesn't break anything, that gives them the habit of updating code to comment during a daily scrum. Hey, I'm looking for this. I got this installed yesterday. Um, I still need to talk to so and so about how do I access that. I'm going to be prepping with so and so on this kind of access. Can you send me some notes on what I need to set up so I can update the documentation so I can make sure I have everything right? So these are all the things that you can do and get these people onboarded, because there's more to onboarding than, oh, I filled out my HR documentation and I'm going to do it. It's onboarding from a equipment perspective, software perspective, knowledge about how the team operates, getting in the habit of doing what we do, and give them actual work to do it rather than figments of their imagination. Oh, by the way, one day you'll have a task and you move it across the board. Give them a freaking task. Give them a task to update the onboarding documentation. Simple as that. And they're like, oh, no, it's not. No, do it. Do it. Get them in the habit of do it. It helps out. Make it a one pointer or whatever. They learn the process. They learn how to point things, whatever they do. Put the hours in, what are they estimated, gives them something to grasp on what they're going to be doing very shortly, right? So I wanted to share that with you today in the onboarding. Make it a task. Give them something to physically practice and run and learn how it works on the board, moving things across the board. So they're not asking you 50 million times what to do later on when it's really important. And they got 10, 15 different tasks they're working on for whatever product you're delivering. Hopefully they don't have 10 or 15. I like 3 or 4, 3, actually 3, 2 development or testing things, and 1 like bug thing. I just like 3 at a time. But anyway, so do that in the onboarding. HR departments, you should really be asking the manager, okay, what do you got set up for the onboarding process? And Leela Hormozy is really good at this onboarding process. She's learned for a young person to be so powerful in the business world and understanding where the onboarding, it really hurts companies. It's amazing. She's spot on it. I love it. And she talks about how these companies don't have a good onboarding process. You can't let them float. You have to have a process for onboarding and how to do it, how to meet the team and all that kind of stuff. It's very important. They should have one-on-ones with everyone on the team just to get them to know, that whole onboarding process should be a story, right? And every sprint, whoever you come on board, and they have tasks, meet so-and-so. And maybe there's subtasks for every member of the team that they got to meet. Maybe there's subtasks for every framework, product owner, product, whatever, setup, computers, virtual machine, whatever they're going to do, testing hardware, software. These all should be subtasks, what they're going to do in a sprint. And to be honest with you, it gets everybody involved, and they all know, because every member on the team should contribute to bringing them on board the team. It ain't just they show up. So there's lots of this onboarding, but I think you do a story, you have tasks, you have people participate. It allows people on the team to set aside time to help the person on board. Maybe they do a task for each person, maybe a task for here, and put a task in for the person to sit down with them on that time, right? Make it all part of their onboarding story, and they get credit for it. They're always worried about, I got to take time away. So you give them a task or subtask or whatever so that they get credit for helping out. They don't get penalized, because we know how some people like to penalize if you're not coding. Well, I did this and here's my task. And it's not a verbal thing, but you can spend a half hour and have plenty of transfer of knowledge in a half hour. So with that, I want to say happy scrumming. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have Victoria talk about business analysts, a couple of her stories in her journey. I think it'll be a good interview. She's open for work. So if you are open for work and you want me to share your resume, send me a message. Let's do an interview. I get that every once in a while. I turn it right back on. I'm like, well, you want me to share your resume? Why don't we do an interview? If you don't want to do an interview, then I don't know if I'm going to recommend you per se, because I want to make sure everyone gets to know you, right? If it's secret and you're trying to, that's another story. But if you're out in the open to work and all that, that's a different thing. So with that, take care, everyone. Have a great day. Happy scrumming. And I wish you all the best. See ya.